Hey everybody, welcome back to Wigs Gaming. Over the course of the last few weeks, we've been talking about the absolute worst Pokemon of every single type of each Pokemon generation. Today is the Dark type, so if you're excited and you're looking forward to seeing more, make sure you hit a like button at the bottom of the video, and please subscribe if you're new. I have not missed a day, and I don't plan on it. I'm going to get these out every single day. Now, one of the things we need to know, of course, with Dark type, if you are not aware, when Generation 1 of Pokemon came out, Dark was actually not a type. So, I actually looked at this previously, and they actually had what appears to be just a few Pokemon you can get via glitches, and then this is the Ghost from the top of the Pokemon Tower. So, I'm not going to select any of these, but these do look really cool. Honestly, let's just pick this one, just so we can have something there. This is obviously missing no. These looks like some glitched forms of Aerodactyl and Kabutops, and I've never seen this. I'd be curious to see what these glitches are that make these pop up. I think that's kind of cool. Now, obviously, now Dark type exists here in Gen 2. And for Gen 2, honestly, I think the answer is pretty obvious here. As much as I don't actually think Sneasel is that good, and in this generation Weavile didn't exist, it at least has a better dual type, being Dark and Ice. So I actually have to give the edge of the worst probably to Murkrow here. Murkrow is, you get him pretty late in the game, if I'm remembering properly too, and nobody really adds him to their team at that point. It did obviously in Generation 4 get Honchkrow and got a lot better, but this is Generation 2 we're talking about, and I think Murkrow just barely is worse than Sneasel, but they're both pretty bad in my personal opinion. Generation 3, I think this one is one that's a little bit easier, to be honest with you. And I think I'm really just kind of disappointed with Poochyena and Mightyena. Honestly, when you consider the fact that you do get this early on, so a lot of people add this to their team. But in Generation 3, Dark is a special type, which was just a horrible idea. And this thing, the best move you actually get as a Dark type in Generation 3 is Crunch, which, again, once again, is a special move. When I look at some of these other Dark types, you still have some dual typing capabilities. Like this is a part water, that's a part grass, You have no weaknesses. You're extremely strong as a physical attacker, and these have water, dual water as well. It's just having that pure Dark type in Generation 3 really doesn't do you any favors. So I like the design of Poochyena and Mightyena, but it just doesn't really work as a Dark type. You add it to your team, and then you realize how useless it is as you go on through the games. But still a Pokemon that I overall like. It's just, unfortunately, it isn't what we wanted it to be. It is not what we wanted it to be. Now, Generation 4 is where things get a little bit tricky. We did, of course, get Honchkrow and Weavile, but I think the answer for this one is honestly Stunky. Stunky and Skuntank are actually both pretty good Pokemon. They're not the best offensively, but what's interesting about Skuntank is it actually only has one weakness. The only weakness Skuntank has is Ground, which is actually super, super cool, being both a Dark and a Poison type. And I think that's actually really creative. The problem is when you look at some of the other ones, Spiritomb also has no weakness, Drapion is super strong, and these two are strong, and Honchkrow is good. You really have no choice but to say it's Stunky and Skuntank. And even if I used only fully evolved Pokemon, right, even if I put Skuntank here, it's still worse than the rest of these in my personal opinion. So I have to go with Stunky and Skuntank for that one. Generation 5 added a lot of Dark types. And this is, I've already answered with this one before, but I'm actually going to answer something different because there is something different available to us that I have a pretty good feeling nobody liked either, and that is, of course, Liepard. Why is Liepard a Pokemon? You add some random generational cat every single time thinking people are going to love it, and like 2 out of 10 people like it, and you just keep going with it. Guess what? In Generation 4, guys, we got Glameow, right? In Generation 3, we got Skitty, right? And then in Generation 5, we get Liepard. I mean, there could have been a little bit more creativity. There could have been a lot more, as a matter of fact, creativity. But instead, they just add a random cat. This one at least is a Dark type, which is unique, whereas the others were normal type, but I just don't like this thing. It is pretty fast. But if you're going to use a normal type, and I do not like this Pokemon, but if you're going to use a Gen 5 normal type or Dark type early on in the game, I would actually take Patrat and Watchog over this. I wouldn't have both. Even though one's Dark and one's normal, I wouldn't have both. I would take Patrat and Watchog over this because they both get similar moves until later in the game. Now, wow, they did not add a lot. They added a lot of megas. They added Greninja. They added Pangoro, Inkay and Malamar, Hoopa, and Yveltal. What am I supposed to pick, dude? I think I have to go with Pangoro. I actually like Pangoro a lot. I think he's actually pretty good. I like the dark fighting type mixture. I think that's phenomenal. But look at the powerhouses he's surrounded by. Probably one of the best dark types they've ever created. That's a new design. All the megas. Inkay and Malamar are also phenomenal. I love them. And then 2 legendaries. It has to be Pangoro, but I'm really sad that I'm picking Pangoro right now because I think realistically this thing is one of the better fighting types in the game, but it unfortunately compared to this makes it a very hard selection, so I just have to live with that one. Generation 7 gave us, oh my, this is harder. This is harder. Look at this. They gave us Alolan forms of Meowth and Rattata. And I love their designs so much. The new Persian looks a little derpy. I really don't know where they got for that from. And obviously this thing, the Grimer with the chin strap is a little bit weird, but then the Muck looks so good. And if you see this animated, it looks even better. And then you've got an Ultra Beast, you have Ash Greninja, and then you have Incineroar. And this is actually a really hard choice because Incineroar is a good Pokemon. I know I said earlier when I did the Fire-type video and you guys called me out on it, and that's okay. I appreciate it. I want you to, that this thing actually is a Dark-type. It is a good Pokemon. I just don't like Litten regardless. But I think if I had to choose between these, it's probably Alolan Persian. Obviously it's better than Alolan Meowth, but I'm trying to stick to, it's Meowth and Persian, basically. I just like the Alolan Raticate and Rattata a little bit more. I think they're a little bit stronger. And Grimer and Muck are always going to be Grimer and Muck. They're always going to be super strong. So I think we're going to have to go with this. I think this is a pretty good choice. Okay, this has gotten easier. This, I think, is going to get, yeah, never mind. This is the easiest choice of the entire video, okay? As much as a lot of people like to hate on Impidimp, the problem with Impidimp is, the good thing about Impidimp is he does evolve, and I like that he does get a dark fairy type form. I think that's super cool. I forgot this fox's name, but I actually used this in my playthrough. I didn't mind it. It wasn't bad. But what is bad is Morpeko. I have been hating on Pikachu clones the entire time I've been doing this. I'm sure you guys have probably noticed that. It's not that I think Pikachu clones are bad. It's that obviously the game and the way that they design them, they try to make them all similarly strength. And that's where things get a little bit tricky because they want to keep it around the same stats as Pikachu and so on and so forth. But Morpeko is not a bad Pokemon, but it's not good either. There's really no middle ground there. And when you look at some of the other options I have here, what do you want me to do, man? There are so many powerhouses on this list, so I got to let it go. Generation 9. So this is another tough one, but I think this one is a little bit easier, just by a bit. So obviously we've got Masquerada. I forgot your name, but you were trash. Mabaskif, Bombardier. We got King Gambit, Brute Bonnet, Iron Jugulus, and then the legendaries and Roaring Moon. Honestly, it's probably Bombardier. I think it's unique. I think it's definitely a unique Pokemon. But this thing is so difficult to find that nobody really has it in their game. Like, nobody levels up this thing. Nobody uses this on their main team when they're going through the game. And it's really not all that strong. I mean, if you need a flying type on your team, your other choices are Squawkabilly or Kilowattrel. So Bombardier is probably better than them, but I also just don't know why Bombardier is a dark type. Like, where are you getting that from? Based off its design, I don't see why on earth it is a dark type. So I think that has to be the one. And if I had to pick the worst dark type, I think we're going to have to go with Glameow and Liepard. Liepard is just one of those Pokemon that you just don't enjoy using. You can say that you do, you can put it on your team and think that it looks cool, but you're just never going to have a good time. Whatever you do with this thing, it's not going to work out very well. So that is going to be the absolute worst Dark-type Pokemon in every single generation. We will be doing the Steel-type tomorrow, so make sure you subscribe if you are new and like the video if you enjoyed. Thanks, and I'll see you tomorrow.